Rematch yet again of the Eastern Conference Final, this time in the place where New York was able to beat Orlando, get to MLS Cup last year. These teams have already played once this season. I am among those who think it's a little bit of a disappointment to do it so quick with the turnaround from one game to March to April. Would love for this game to have a great September feel. Evan Weston is the radio voice of Orlando City. Gives us a couple minutes. Appreciate you hopping on, bud. Talking
Yeah,
a little
you had
bit
to
of
you had to throw that Eastern Conference Final jab right in there, huh, Matt? Right
wow.
off the top.
I usually give you last words, so we'll see what you can create in the next couple of minutes. Let's start with that. I would imagine the reception for Red Bull won't be warm and cozy on Saturday in Orlando.
No, and you know what? Ultimately, Orlando, I think, are more disappointed in themselves than anything else out of that game. I mean, it had opened up for you, right? I mean, the top three seeds going down in the first round. We could do this same format another 50 years, and that may never happen again. The odds of that happening are so ridiculously low. And they basically, had disposed of Atlanta pretty easily the previous week. I think the mood was, let's get the flights to LA booked. And not only did they not, it wasn't a game where they dominated and just didn't take their chances or anything like that. They weren't even really that great in the final third, and I think it was a disappointment to them and to everyone around the club that they didn't play better in that game. And then they made one mistake and on a set piece, and the Red Bulls were able to take advantage, and that was the end of that. And so I think there's a mood that personally, I think this team is a lot better than last year's team. I think this team has a chance to be our best team ever. The way we are playing at the start of the season in the attack. And I think we saw a good bit of that in the March game. The defense has improved in that last month. Certainly with you that I'd like this game. I think this is a great game every time it gets played. I'd like it to have a little bit more substance to it, as you will, but it was such a great game in March that I'm certainly not upset to get to watch it another time.
Yeah, in the game in March, Evan, I thought Orlando did such a good job of trying to figure out the Red Bull way of playing, which is bunker in a little bit, two great goals coming forward, but a very typical game, I feel like, of contrasting styles and combative and players not being afraid to, have an extra bump or knock somebody over with a shoulder. And that's what these games have kind of become when these two teams play.
Yeah, Orlando is a team that is not going to get bullied. Philadelphia last week came out, you know how they are now. It's Bradley Carnell ball, right? So they were extremely aggressive. And that game was very chippy because Orlando is just not going to take that. And so they started to fight back. And there were 9 yellow cards in the game. It was hard for the referee to keep control of it. I don't think that and what's interesting when I watch the Red Bulls, I see Sandro trying to do something different and make them a little bit better with the ball. And you've got two kind of non-Red Bully players up top in Choupo-Moting, who played really well against Orlando last month, and then Emil Forsberg, who kind of didn't and got marked out of the game. So it's interesting to see that evolution and how Orlando will approach it. I think at home, they'll probably try to go through the press a little bit more than around it. They like to have the ball. They like to entertain in front of their fans, and they certainly have the players in attack to do it. They have still leading the league in goals even after getting shut out last week. I think they're going to be near the league lead in goals for most of the season, the way that they are structured right now, and with some of the performances they've been getting. And I'd anticipate them to probably have a little bit more control of this one than they did back in Jersey, where they were really trying to hit on the counter and take advantage of those gaps and were successful a couple of times in doing so. Red Bulls are going to be Red Bulls, and I think they know what's coming. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like once again.
Yeah, Evan, identical records of these teams, both 3-2-2 through their first 7 games, but doing it very different. You mentioned Orlando scoring a bunch, maybe giving up. I know there was some early season issues on that back line that you feel like have cleared up. Red Bull doing it a little bit different, not scoring a ton, but also not giving up a ton. Again, to me, that just speaks into how different these teams will try and play and attack a game like this on Saturday.
Yeah, Orlando's run the 3DP model pretty much the whole time since Luis Muzzi came in 2019. They've had 3DPs most of that time, certainly since the Wilfs bought the club and invested a lot more money into that side of things. They have really had made sure to have those three spots filled. And for the first time ever, all three of them are playing like stars. You've got Martin Ojeda, who for me is the most unheralded attacking player in Major League Soccer, period. 4 goals and 3 assists in 7 games. To me, he's a top tier MVP candidate in the early part of the season. Marco Pasalic has been a home run coming over from Croatia to replace Facundo Torres. Not a lot of people knew a whole lot about him. There was some skepticism out there about whether or not he'd be able to fill those boots. I said, you have no idea if he's going to be able to fill those shoes. I certainly don't. I don't watch the Croatian league. And it was evident me watching him train a little bit in the preseason. Okay, yeah, this guy's got something. And has showed out quite a bit. Scored a goal against the Red Bulls last month. And what's interesting is the last couple of games, teams have built their game plan around him, try and take him out of the game. We'll see how Orlando kind of adjusts to that. They haven't quite been able to work through it yet, but they've been on the road, so I'm curious to see what that looks like at home. And then the biggest story for Orlando City this season has been Luis Muriel, who was their second highest paid player ever, one of the highest paid players in the league, tremendously successful player in Italy for most of his career, who came over last year and just could not quite adapt. Didn't really have an on-field chemistry with his teammates. He looked a step slow for the league, and has recommitted himself to his fitness. Had a fantastic preseason, and when he's on the ball, is one of the most clever, ingenious, innovative players in the league. Extremely technical, and a great finisher, and has 6 goal contributions so far. So you've got three legitimate star players all functioning together, and then a team that has kind of had a lot of different pieces around them so far. But like you mentioned, the defensive stuff has gotten better. They conceded 10 goals in their first 4 games, just 2 in their last 3. They got a clean sheet against the Union, and not only got a clean sheet, but held the Union to pretty low quality chances for most of that game. A team that is really, and had Daniel Gostok at the time, a team that is really one of the best attacking teams in the league. So I think the balance part of it is starting to come around. And I think when they hit that, and I have every faith that they will, you're looking at a pretty top tier contender in this Orlando side.
Evan, finished with this one. Maybe you just answered a little bit because the game that these teams played in March was less than a month ago. The biggest difference from what we saw back in March to April, is it the tightening up of the defense, or is it something else?
Yeah, I'd say so. They put David Brecalo, who was a center back, in at left back last week, and he'll stay home a lot more than Rafael Santos maybe will. I'm not sure if Orlando is going to go back to that, but certainly even if they don't start the game with it, if they get the lead, that's a club they have in their bag where they may just go to it. The partnership between Cesar Araujo and Eduardo Atuesta has been coming along. Both players missed out last week due to some tightness, so they've been a little bit of questions there. But then Jaron Gerbet, who's a rookie, Orlando City hitting in the super draft once again. The kid, he played great against the Red Bulls last month, stepped in last week against the Union on the road in a really tough game in that position and played brilliantly. They've got Dagerdan Thorhaldsen, who's been everywhere, has played 5 different positions since Alex Freeman bumped him off of right back. He started in midfield and played well last week. I got to talk to him today. He takes such pride in being versatile and being able to help the team. Rodrigo Schlegel had a bad first game and since has been spotless, settled in really nicely. And then Pedro Galese himself, who was behind some of those mistakes early in the year, has been lights out since coming back from Peru. So everything is trending in the right direction that way for Orlando. Can they continue to keep their DP stars as productive with the sliders tilted a little bit more towards the defensive side? That's the question they're going to have to answer. They have the talent, the pieces are all there, and we've seen this team go on crazy second half runs before in the last couple of seasons. I'm really expecting them to do that again, and we'll see what it looks like in what is just their second home game in 6 weeks on Saturday.
And we'll do it in just a couple of days from now. Appreciate you hopping on, Evan, giving us a couple minutes. Always look forward to these games and catching up with you in person.
All right, thanks, Matt.